Today, I am joined by Michael D'Onofrio. He's the managing partner of Premier Payroll Solutions, where he's made a pretty bold bet, building a company around one of the toughest customer groups there is, restaurant owners.
Making a conscious choice to leave orthopedic sales to then go into payroll, I was told, Mike, you are wasting your career. If you do what I do, build relationships, I could do this. A dear friend of mine, extremely successful, built a hedge fund from nothing to a $20 billion company. He says, no matter what you do, don't do a good job, do a great job. 20-something years later, he was right. I invested in relationships. The principle works. In my personal life, professional life, everything is about a relationship. Each was a stepping stone to where I got to today. Some people said to me, Mike, I love you, but come back to me when there's 100 clients, 200 clients. And I came back and I was knocking. I don't take relationships lightly.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Life's a Pitch. Before we get into today's episode, I need you to do me a huge favor. Whatever platform you're on, so Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, make sure to follow or subscribe. I know everybody always says that, but for a newer show like this, one subscriber genuinely makes a huge difference. All right. That's my ask. Let's get to our amazing guest for today's show. Today, I am joined by Michael D'Onofrio, a Long Island guy, Hofstra grad, and spent a decade carrying a bag, selling pet food, medical implants, before deciding to build something on his own. Today, he's the managing partner of Premier Payroll Solutions, where he's made a pretty bold bet, building a company around one of the toughest customer groups there is, restaurant owners. And here's the part I love more than anything. Instead of cold calling restaurant owners all day, Michael and his business partner, Vinny, launched a podcast called Staying Hungry. They sit down with the exact people they want to work with, build relationships first, and then let the business happen naturally afterwards. Michael, welcome to the show. What's up, man? How are you?
Yeah, Jared, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And certainly it was nice to meet you when I was out in Chicago and joining you here today from Long Island. So this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. You and I, Nick Stark, who obviously works for you now, and I have a history together. So when Nick said that you would be a great add to the podcast, it was a no-brainer for me to bring you on. I want to talk, before we get into everything that we're going to talk about shop-wise, you live in an area of the country right now that is abuzz with a certain sports team that is just taking off. I know that you are
maybe the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks. I know you're a diehard Rangers guy. Rangers are your team first.
Rangers, my team. Yeah, the Knicks have made some noise in a great way.
Yeah.
Myself, my family, not diehards, but definitely in '94 when they were chasing also alongside my Rangers, who did win the cup then. But
yep.
the Knicks have made some noise, and you know what? I think it's a storybook story as far as what they've done. You know, persevere. Were they the best team? Well, they've proven that they were, but could others have beat them? Yeah, they certainly did, but this was their year, and it's been super exciting. And what's nice to see, at least locally here, so many are benefiting from that run. Food space, who's doing bagels with the Knicks colors and catering and bars, etc., which ties into a lot of our space too. So it's been pretty exciting here in the New York metro area and beyond.
Yeah, that's a great kind of talking point, is that the restaurant industry in general, I'm assuming, especially like when you talk about bars and the bar restaurant space, I have to assume it's just taken off, the excitement level around it. Like from a city, like growing up there, again, 94, you mentioned, was the last time the Rangers had won anything. I think it's been 54 years is the last time the Knicks have won a championship. Like, when you just walk the streets now, I have good friends that are diehard Knicks fans that live in the city and that have been to the city. One of them went to one of the games. Like, when you're just walking the streets, is there a feeling of just like togetherness where everybody's kind of on the same board? Like, you take all the shit that's going on in the world right now, politics aside, like all that, like there's got to be that feeling of what sports actually means and what it can do to bring a group of people that may not normally get along or agree from a political spectrum together. Like, how great is that right now?
Yeah, without question. And even, within a mile from our office, there's a pizzeria restaurant over here that they had upwards of a dozen watch parties. And, they didn't have any of that before. baseball, they haven't been making a run. So it's impossible to not benefit from it, because even if you're not diehards, maybe someone in the family is a fan, and now it's brought so many together. It's been a nice feeling around here. Obviously, some negativity of some of the stupidity, in my opinion, of acting out, like damaging stuff. I just, no matter what city it is, I never understand that. Your team is winning and you act like that. I could use choice words and describe how I really feel about it, but the positivity has far outweighed that. But it does put like an asterisk there. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I just actually, right before we jumped on, I saw a social clip of a lady that apparently is an executive for JP Morgan that dumped over a trash can during the parade. It was a blue and orange trash can. She dumped it out and took the trash can on the subway. You saw that? Yeah. She got fired.
Yeah. She got fired.
Like, what are we doing? Like, somebody has to clean that up. Like, people that's their job. Like, why would you? I don't know. That's the type of shit that I don't understand why you have to act like that. I'm with you.
And it's going to happen again. I'm not saying in New York here, but it happens in other cities, and it just makes no sense. But it's been fun. Certainly, it kind of makes me feel like '94, where then every night Rangers, Knicks. I mean, I don't think I slept for a month, and then I was in eighth grade, and I was getting through finals and kind of crossing my fingers and hoping I did well the next day, but it didn't really matter. It mattered, but it didn't really matter.
It's a good excuse though if you didn't. All right. So let's, I want to get into, so when you and I met, like you have a very unique, interesting story that was really cool to hear about. But I want to talk about sales in general. You're starting sales. So take me back to the pet food days, your first real sales job. From there, it was bone implants and then payroll. What did getting the door just slammed in your face early beat into your mindset of how you sell today, ultimately?
Yeah. And I'll back up just a little bit before that, Jared, which I think has been the key to where I am today. A dear friend of mine, extremely successful, built a hedge fund from nothing to a $20 billion company. I respect him professionally, personally, like a brother to me. When I came out of school, I wanted to get into a pharma position or medical sales. And I got interviews, but I never got the job. And I don't think there was any wrongdoing. I didn't have a resume per se of all this experience, but I wanted the sexy job. And I remember I went out to dinner with my friend Tommy, and I said to him, I said, Tommy, and I'm just not getting the job. And he's like, look, you don't have experience. He just gave me straight truth. He says, you don't have experience there, but you're going to get it. And he goes, I hope I give you some of the best advice you'll ever get. Now, I'm sitting here like, oh, here comes the magic. And I was expecting something big. And I'll tell you what he said to me. He says, no matter what you do in life, don't do a good job, do a great job. And I'm like, what? That's what you just said to me? Like, that's going to help me. So 20 something years later, he was right. There was nothing wrong. I took a position. It was in the pet food space. I didn't know anything about it. It was some of the coolest work experience I ever had. I was single. I traveled the country. I called on national stores, Petco, PetSmart, and I built relationships. And I think that's the word right there that you might hear me say a few times, that in my personal life, professional life, everything is about a relationship. And coincidentally, last night, sorry to jump, but my son moved up from 8th grade, and the principal gave a nice speech. And he talked about investing in yourself and people, and what that investment could return to you by having meaningful relationships in your life. So it came full circle. And I, even last night I said to my son, I go, that was an unbelievable speech by your principal. And he made comparisons to investing in stocks and what the return could be, but nothing more greater than the investment in relationships. So while I went into the pet food space, I was there for a few years. I didn't have the sexy job, but I had a cool job, and I invested in relationships. And each was a stepping stone to where I got to today. I did finally get to the sexy job. I spent a lot of time in operating rooms, and I made the choice after a few years. This is going back 2010. My wife was expecting, and essentially I made a choice that it spun people's heads around, that I was going to leave this sexy industry to go into the payroll industry, but it was a life choice. Making a conscious choice to leave the sexy business of orthopedic sales to then go into payroll. I was told, Mike, you are wasting your fucking career. Just like that, from Dominic Lociato, who was the president of the company. And he was in my face, and that's what he said to me. And I thanked him again for the opportunity of being there. And he said, when it doesn't work out, please come back here. So I went into the payroll space. That wasn't the start of Premier. That was in the summer of 2010. I spent 4 years at a company. I was doing, fantastic there. And I don't just say that to say that, but I was given the awards. I was given some financial bonuses. So I had this brilliant idea to ask the owner of the company to change my comp structure. I was looking to invest some money into the company. I wanted to be there. I was co-workers with 20-something employees that came and went, and there was always about 4 or 5 that were there. But I'm like, what is up with this place? And I figured it out when I went out to lunch, sharing this great idea I had with him to say, hey, this is what I'd like to do. And he says, Mike, why would I ever do that when I make so much money off you? And he talked fast, and we were out to lunch, and I'm like, wow, did he just say that to me? So I thought that was pretty greedy and so far-fetched from who I am as a person and caring for individuals. So with that being said, I told my wife, this is just not going to be the place for me for the long haul. So I started to paper the idea. More so, it was actually on a napkin in a pizzeria restaurant on Long Island here, that I started to game plan these thoughts of what I thought there was a void in the marketplace here locally. So this ties into how I met my partner, a kid who's 13 years younger than me at the time. Then we were coworkers. He was let go like 5 months and 20-something days because his insurance was about to kick in. So we remained friendly, and pretty cool that kid went on to build a $10 million company. We're still friendly today, but he introduced me to my today partner, Stacy, who the missing piece for me, I didn't have the operational expertise. I had the business development side. I know a lot of our conversation, Jared, was on that front. So that was the missing piece that I did not have. And he introduced me, as the world would have it. His father was dating Stacy, so he made the connection. I show up with my napkin and a notepad and the idea of what Premier Payroll Solutions could look like. So I was very honest with her, as I always am. And I said, I build relationships. A lot of people like me. They trust me. I've never started a payroll company before. But if you could run the company, the operational side, the way you have at another organization, we're on to something. And I said, I promise you this. And I remember her brother, who is our banker. They've been our bankers since inception. We were at the meeting of getting everything in order. And I said, I promise you this. I will treat your sister like my own. And I promise you, we're going to jump off this cliff together, but we won't hit the floor. We'll be back up soon. And we had no clients in 2015. And I simply went on belief and a void in the marketplace. And how hospitality ties in is because, my family's been in the restaurant business. In about a 10-minute, nutshell, that's how it came together. And then Vinny, who's also a partner of ours, we were friendly in the marketplace about a year and a half after we started. He was also in the payroll space amongst a few other businesses tied to hospitality, but partners were going in 3 different directions. He liked what we were doing, and he said, Mike, I think I can complement what you guys have started, and the 3 of us have been at the helm of running Premier, and all have different expertise, and we use it collectively to drive the business, and just to give you a snapshot, at the start of our 12th year, just occurred, over 30 employees, processing in over 40 states. And, as we near closer to the start of 2027, almost 2,000 clients that we've put on, mostly organic. So feels like it was yesterday, but it's kind of been a long time in the making. So sorry, threw a lot at you in one question.
No,
But
it's good.
there it is.
I'm going to go back. I got a lot to unpack here.
Yes.
So I want to rewind backwards a little bit. What didn't you like about the medical sales versus what did you ultimately fall in love with on the payroll side? Because listen, payroll, this, like and I was in PEO space. Like I understand it. It's not the sexiest thing in the world to sell, right? So what was that difference there?
The difference was personal. A piece that I wouldn't say I intentionally left out, but I was just trying to unpack it as fast as I could for you. The summer, it was July of 2010. My wife and I got in the car. We were heading to a barbecue about a half hour away. My phone rang. It was Nassau County Medical Center, which is the level 2 trauma center. I got a phone call. There was a patient coming in, and the surgery was going to start in about 90 minutes. So my wife, I said to her, do you want me to drop you off and get your car? She goes, no, take me here, go there, and come to the barbecue afterwards. Okay. I walked in at 1 o'clock in the morning. It was about midday. And I'm like, this sucks, in the sense that when my wife gives birth, that my schedule is going to be like this. So I wouldn't say owned, or it was the feeling of being owned by the operating schedule, where with my instance of my dad's untimely passing, I go, I don't care how much you pay me. Now, I have other means of income. My wife's a school teacher. I have a real estate portfolio, and I go, life's short. Like, I want to be where my kids are going to be. Yeah. And I made a decision. So that's what many of the outside world never got to see or hear. It's not their business, but essentially, when I said it to Dom, right, he didn't know all of that. He didn't know any of it. But so I go, you know what? At least, like, the payroll business seemed like mostly Monday to Friday. But if you're out at the barbecue, you could talk to somebody about payroll. Maybe they own a business, or maybe their brother, sister, cousin, uncle does. And I wasn't wrong in that sense, where today I don't show up at a barbecue and just go, I try not to talk about my work. But people are always intrigued by other people. So I'm a person who, I ask a question and I let them talk. And if they ask me about my work, they ask me. If they don't, they don't. And you mentioned before about, like, the podcast. Yeah, that's what we do too. Like, we actually want to hear from our guests. Like, you've asked me questions, and I keep telling you the story because I'm assuming you want to hear it.
Yeah. No, it's great. So the conversation that you had with the company that you were working for, where it was the guy that was greed, basically, he's like, you're making me money.
That was in
the payroll space. All right. So you jumped into the payroll space for 4 years, and you're like, this is, and tell me because I think that the reason I started a company is because I didn't want to be controlled, and I didn't want to make money for somebody else. It was kind of my mindset. And once you got in there and you understood the payroll space for 4 years, there has to be something that ultimately clicks. Like, you could have said, fuck this guy, I'm going to go work for another payroll company. I'm going to crush it over there and work for somebody I want. But there was a moment where you were like, I'm ready to just do this on my own. I'm ready to go off. And you said you found Stacy, the operating partner, because you have to have an operating partner, somebody that gets that. But what was that kind of aha moment for you where you're like, I'm just going to build my own company? Like, I'm not going to work for somebody else. Like, I'm just doing my own thing now.
It didn't come right away. And going back to my brother and my cousins that owned, all of the restaurants, but they were like, when I spoke to them, they were like, F this, we're going to do this tomorrow. And I appreciated the enthusiasm. I appreciated, they're like, whatever you need, we'll do this. What was missing was the operational piece, somebody that can run the operation. Yeah. So I just said, hey guys, let's just sit tight. Let me just keep, doing my thing here. I was still at the company, and I did step out There was a 1 year in between because I had a non-compete and I had then there was non-compete and I had non-solicitation. So here's really what the aha moment was. I left the business. I went back into medical. I got myself a really nice job. It was allergy immunotherapy. I remember the manager saying, "Hey, you're going to take over territory." Now, he didn't know anything that I had a thought about doing a payroll company. Nobody should have, because what if? What if it didn't come together? At least I got myself. I told my wife, I'll go get a great job. And I always believed in myself. Always. I still do. I teach my kids, always believe in what you do the right thing. But I went to the national sales meeting. It was the mid-year national sales meeting about 6 weeks after I got hired. And there was about 35 reps across the United States. And the guy said to me, he's like, your territory sits somewhere in the middle. So I'm like, quick math, that's around 17 or 18. I look up, I was number 35 out of 35. They put my name in the new territory, which they should have. So I looked at, I never forget, I was Jason. I still talk to him, and he was a few people. So I looked to the left. I go, Jason, like middle, and he's like, you'll get there. So the aha moment, 6 months later. So I ran around all of Long Island. I didn't know shit about allergy immunotherapy. I was learning. They sent me all this stuff. I faked it till I made it, and I'll tell you what, I did it. So almost 1 year later, national sales meeting, I went from 35 to number 1 in the country by growth percentage. And not just by a little, by almost 20%. I got the plaque, I got a nice bonus, and I couldn't run to my room fast enough to tell my wife. Now, most people would go, hey, this is unbelievable. I got to just keep going. I said, I got good news and bad news. Bad news, I got this plaque, I got this check. She's like, if that's the bad news, what's the good news? I go, I'm out of here. I'm starting Premier Payroll Solutions. She was like, are you kidding me? I go, no. I go, Adrian, the principle works. If you do what I do and build relationships and believe in yourself, I'm like, I could do this. And then I came back home. Stacy and I had some dialogue, and we were going slow. She was a stranger to me then, and I'm like, look, the marketplace needs a company like what we're projecting, and here we are. Let's do this thing. And she believed in me.
I love that story, like the relationships where you were just like, it clicked. Like all you have to do is build relationships. You obviously have relationships in the restaurant industry, given like the background.
Yep.
Were you at that point, you started the company. So talk about the company now. Like this is like, who is the company? What do you guys help? It sounds like obviously the restaurant space in and around the Tri-County area where you guys are up there. Tell me a little bit about the business, and then I'll have some questions too based as a follow-up.
Yeah. So, we're I say a regional payroll service bureau. We have feet on the ground here in New York and in Chicago area, over 30 employees. This is the start of our 12th year. We have employees that I think work in 9 different states. We focus on our team, our culture, building an organization where we're very clear and direct about where we want to go and how we're doing it as a team. I always wanted to be recognized as one of the best companies to work for. From inception, that's how I always felt. And I chose those words wisely. I didn't say payroll. Yes, I do believe we're the best payroll company out there. Perfect? No. Mistakes happen? Yeah. Clients make mistakes? They do. But we're here to be in it together. We try to be an extension of our client's business. So anyone that has employees, 1 or more. Now there's some large organizations locally here, Cablevision, the Northwell Health System. Those are not our target clients. It's a client that we could build a relationship with. We have clients that have 1, they pay themselves. We have clients that have a few thousand employees over multiple states that essentially could have thousands of employees. But the commonality is the relationship and be an extension of their business. Some just need simply payroll services. Some need payroll HR, bells and whistles that come along with it, and in an a la carte fashion, pun intended, since we do a lot in hospitality, that we can help you and we can layer out these services and we can grow with them. So starting off with having a relationship, a lot of our business is introductions from the industry. Our clients, referral partners like CPAs, labor attorneys, P&C brokers, benefit brokers, but relationships. And we don't take it lightly amongst our team. We don't take it lightly amongst those we serve. And, those who said to me then, you will never survive because, 12 years ago, the company looked very different, not just by quantity of staff and team, but essentially our offering. It's grown as our needs with clients have grown, so have our offerings. But the commonality has always been how we treat our clients, our staff. We're rowing in the same direction, and that's challenging. It's business, and you got to pay attention all the time.
So if I were to ask one of your clients, the payroll space it's somewhat of a commoditized space. Obviously, you have a specific core niche that you focus on, which is great. When things look identical on paper, right? Obviously, there's things that are different, right? But on paper, if somebody's doing their shopping, what is the thing that you feel like is the separator? Like, hey, this is where on paper, yes, you may be scoping out 3 or 4 different payroll companies. This is why you should go with us.
We're not the 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace. And sometimes it may take a little bit for someone to see and feel that until they give us a chance and become a client. But I'll tell you what, Jared, clients come here, they stay a long time. I just got off the phone yesterday with a client, Teddy. They're in the hardware space. I think he was client number 11. Almost 12 years later, we talk like it was yesterday that he joined us, and I am forever grateful for him to take a chance. He picked me up off the ground and said, "Kid, I'm so proud of you." And it meant the world to me that he was coming along, and because I'll tell you what, you start a business, and some people said to me, "Mike, I love you, but come back to me when there's 100 clients, 200 clients," and I came back and I was knocking, and I said, "Hey, I got there," and they were proud, and I don't take relationships lightly.
Yeah, that's great. So I was in the PEO space in 2020, right? And we had a lot of restaurants as clients during that time. What relationships were everything during the pandemic? So when you talk about the struggles, the ups and downs, you have a lot of small businesses that were one of the hardest hit during that pandemic. How important were relationships? Tell me about like what was going on in 2020 during the pandemic with a lot of those folks that you were working with closely.
Scared as hell. I'll be completely honest with you. We own the building that we operate out of. We're moving soon, but in 2020, I was in the building downstairs, a room over. Stacy was upstairs, and one other employee. We were spread out, wiping down everything, and scary times. The restaurants were hit the hardest, especially here in New York City. But I'll tell you what. There was a blessing in that we helped out so many with documentation needed to get PPP loans, and we did it for no fee, nothing. Others, our competitors, they were charging a fee. Could we have? Yeah, we should have, looking back, but it was the right thing because some work was involved to do so. But I'll tell you what, it paid a multiple far beyond because it introduced new relationships to us, and the light was getting brighter at the end of the tunnel as we were going into the summer and more was opening. But scared as hell, and I guess I was about to say, I remember an employee, Frank, who's actually in his office in this direction. He came in and we were keeping our distance, and I remember looking up at him and I'm like, "Hey, you're right." He's like, "Yeah," and I started to cry at my desk, and I said to him, "Frank, I go, I didn't do anything wrong. This isn't my fault. I didn't know what was going to happen with the company." We were about 5 years old, and even now I get choked up about it because I remember sitting there and he's like, "Mike, we're gonna be all right." He's like, you're our leader, everyone's with you, and we're gonna get through this. And like that's the type of organization we are, that I believe people will follow us to the fire, but they know that we'll make sure that they don't get burned. If anyone's going to, I'll get burned.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the other question. Why are we different? That's why.
That's what I was going to
Because
say. I was going to say when that's your answer. That story is your answer to that question.
yeah,
for sure.
that's it. And not saying there's others that are not like this in other parts of the country. And do I know some others around here but right. If I didn't believe that we were the best out there, we're the best, not just because of processing, but everything else. And again, I know others treat their staff good, but always of the school of thought, not promoting it, but hey, if you really think through and through, someone will care for you the way we do at Premier from the leadership level, I politely challenge you to go check it out. And because I feel strongly on that front, and there's nothing to belabor. That's where we sit.
Awesome. Love it. All right. So we're kind of getting toward the end of the show, and I will come back. I do want to talk about the podcast briefly toward the end, but now we're going to get into what's called extra innings.
Okay.
And I always say this on every episode. This is Life's a Pitch is the name of the show. I'm a diehard baseball guy, so I want to incorporate some type of baseball into the show. So that's what I'm going to do here with extra innings. It's in essence rapid fire. So I'm going to give you some questions. Give me an answer, and I will try as hard as I can not to go down rabbit holes with my opinion on what you said. So here we go.
Let's do it.
First question. What is the one lesson that you've taught other people in business or in life that you wish more people could hear?
To value your relationships in your life and don't take them for granted.
Yeah, it's perfect. Not much to add onto that one. It's great. What's something that you love talking about that drives everyone else in your life batshit crazy?
Batshit crazy, maybe not, but I love going out to Montauk, and the kids probably are tired of me hearing, but when we go, knock on wood, I go, my God, this is a perfect Montauk. I literally say this is a perfect Montauk day because I spent 2 summers, 2 weeks every summer out there. And I just have an appreciation for the space around me, the weather, the surrounding, and I must say it 10 times in about a 12-hour period.
That's awesome. That's good. That's good. What's the last thing that genuinely scared you?
I think seeing a pretty significant car accident.
Yep.
And my daughter is turning 16, and losing some control over even that facet of them fully understanding how significant being in a car is, whether you're the driver or not.
Yep. Yeah. I'm not at 16, my daughter's 10, but I think about it all the time. Whenever I see one, it's like, oh man, I wish I could control it, but that's a good one. All right. What is one thing in the truth about business or in life that you did not believe until you actually lived it, whether that's being an entrepreneur, running a business, and being a professional, whatever that is?
Yesterday was yesterday. That every day will present new sets of challenges, and it's like an octopus coming at you with 8 arms, and you better be ready to go because it's nonstop.
Yes, that's a good one. What's one tool that you use for work or in life that you could not live without?
My voice or cell phone. I'm old school in the sense of I like calling people on the phone or meeting them face to face to talk.
Yeah, it's good. Lost art. I think I've got in my artillery of friends and people in my network, maybe 3 people that will actually call me. Like if you looked at my log list, it's literally either my parents or these 3 people are the only people. Everybody else is just text message. Text message or Slack
Which
or whatever.
It works, but I actually prefer a phone call or meeting face to face.
Yeah. All right. These last 2, super corny, but tells me a lot about people. That's why I love asking them. All right. You're going to a dinner party. You're having beers. You get 3 people, living or dead. Who are you going with? Who are you hanging out with?
My father.
Okay.
Wayne Gretzky.
Mm-hmm. Can't believe you're not throwing Messier in here as the third, but Gretzky, I
Yeah,
guess, will take
and
that spot.
I will put him there. And there's a chance the guy who I mentioned at the very beginning, Tommy, the finance guy, actually lives in his neighborhood, and sometimes they play pickup hockey. So I
Okay.
feel like I'm gonna get closer to hanging with him in some capacity.
Okay. That's great. So Tom, okay. I love it. All right. First concert and last concert.
I can't really remember the first, but I'll take a stab at it. Nassau Coliseum. It was some sort of rap concert. I think it was Jay Z. Group of us went in a limo. 11th, 12th grade. I think it was 12th grade, and I remember that it was definitely there, and it was an experience. The last concert, I believe, was 2 summers ago. Luke Bryan, Jones Beach. Not a country guy. Not that I dislike it, but my wife ran to the bathroom with the friend. The friend's husband went somewhere. I was bopping around with these ladies next to me and loving every bit of Luke Bryan. So he's an entertainer, and I have him on some of the playlists.
Good. Yeah. Good music for sure. Awesome. That was great rapid fire, great extra innings there. This is the end of the show. I want you to plug, I want you to talk about the podcast really quick. Usually
Yeah,
I'll say, how did people find you? We didn't really talk about the podcast much. I love the angle that you have here. You don't really talk about payroll a lot on the
yeah,
podcast, if at all, but you
yeah,
do have folks that are running restaurants, which always have there's always a fun story behind these restaurants. So talk about the podcast for a second,
yeah.
and then we'll get into how can people reach you and connect with you.
Sure. So podcast called Staying Hungry. Basis of it is food hospitality, which a little bit of play on words there. It was an idea that Vin had come up, my partner Vinny had come up with back in 2019. We were talking about it. I think in literally one take, he drafted a picture of what the logo is with the fork in it. And essentially, it's a way for us to engage in conversation with those tied to hospitality. So sometimes we veered off a little bit, not a plumber has come on, but someone has ties to hospitality, like a young woman who helps autistic children came on, and she has ties to hospitality where she has this picnic business, and some of those children help just move equipment and stuff like that. So just a nice story. And I think some uniqueness, and it's been said to us by guests why it's unique, is that we actually ask questions and we listen, and they tell us some stuff that we can't believe. Some of them are clients, many of them are not, and we learn stuff about them. And it has been a good way to develop more relationships, develop more business with a very indirect approach. Nothing salesy. We never are, but we have a lot of fun. We learn a lot, and we're starting to build a longer waiting list for those that are looking to come on. So I guess it's been effective.
So that's Staying Hungry, and that is on YouTube, Spotify,
Yeah, yeah.
Apple,
So
all the usual
all the
channels.
channels.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and
Great.
definitely more to come. It's you see me smiling. It's fun for us, and some of the stuff they hit us with is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
You think someone a little bit, and they hit you with something that happened in their life, and you go, whoa, I had no idea. So it's pretty cool to learn about them.
Great. Awesome. Mike, how could people find you besides the podcast? How could people find you?
Yeah, so Premier Payroll NY .com is our website. Gives you a lot of info there. Many people call my cell phone, and my email, Michael at premierpayrollny.com. But if you go to our website, it's easy to contact us, and always open to engaging in conversation and learning about others.
Awesome. Well, that is a wrap for this episode of Life's a Pitch. Massive thanks to Mike for coming on the show. Learned a ton, some amazing stories in there. If you enjoyed the conversation, share it with someone who'd see some value in it. Go make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast on all the channels we're on. I keep saying this, but we're still a very young show, and the more that we can get, the better it looks when we ask amazing guests like Mike to come on. So yeah, go do that, like, subscribe, and remember, behind every strategy, title, or success story, there's chaos, self-doubt, and a whole lot of trial and error. We will see you next time. Thanks.